the Forged and Unbroken podcast.
I know you're in the thick of it, and you're so cool of you to take time. So I mean, we can jump right into it.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Good.
I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it,
It's a
man.
small world, dude. With Ronnie being your old captain, and he's at my station. He does lead it for us, and it's just crazy what a small world it is.
Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't even put two and two together. I think actually before I'd met you through like the social media channels and everything, he had mentioned you to me. I was like, that's awesome. And then just roundabout way we figured that out. It really is a small world. He was my captain on the truck company for a little while, and then he was like the captain in my house where I was a lieutenant, like just watching my back. And we'd been through a lot together, man. It's a fun dude. Super easy to get fired up. It's like a part-time hobby of mine. I love it.
Oh man, as soon as he walks through the door, we'll all be at the table, we all just start firing off, and he's like, come on, man. He gets. He's like,
I love it.
Oh man, it's awesome. But he loves it.
That's great. He needs that. He needs it. He misses it.
Oh yeah.
Actually, that's something I kind of wanted to get into with you, being in Florida. That is, I just got back a couple weeks ago. We were visiting some family down there, just a quick out and back. And I think a lot of people underestimate what Maryland brings. I think that because we're like on the coast, the whole state's practically built on a swamp, man. The humidity is super high. So there's not a whole lot of difference between Maryland and Florida weather. You guys definitely take the cake. I'm not trying to take that from you. How are you handling this Florida weather, like specifically for working out and for the job, like in the gear? I've been doing deep dives on research with that. I got some stuff coming out, but like, I want to hear it from you. Like you're living it, you're working it. How does that affect you? That Florida humidity, that Florida heat, there's no place to hide. What's that like for you?
Yeah, it's actually funny. I never expected Maryland to be similar to us, because you just think, Northeast. And I know you guys get cold winters, but
yeah, we do.
That's
we do guys
pretty miserable. If it's anything like how it is now, and you were just here, like a week ago, I definitely I feel for you guys.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I've been, I'm kind of like you. I've been looking into some of the, human performance research stuff recently, but for me, it's always just kind of been my lifestyle, because I grew up in South Florida my whole life. So this is all I know. And you just have to get out and deal with it. And, I did notice that the more you do it, you do acclimate. Mm-hmm. And then if you take a break and then you go and you try to get back in gear, or even like when I do a workout in my garage at 2 p.m., it's still miserable. I mean, it's like sweat puddles all over my floor. Or like when it's, springtime, winter to springtime for us, and then you get that first summer day and I'm doing a workout in my gym with, no AC. It's like, it sucks because heart rate's way higher than it normally would be. And you could definitely feel a difference.
Yeah, for sure. I was just there, I guess it would have been 2 weeks ago now. So yeah, you're talking 90s, high humidity, and yeah, there's just no place to hide. I'm glad you said that, because a lot of the research is showing that like you can acclimatize to it. There's protocols for like 1 week, 2 weeks. I actually just posted on it. Like you've got to spend a lot of time working on your fitness. Like that's one of the biggest precursors to like effectiveness. Is you can't just like get into the habit of working out and then like hope you're going to be okay. Like this is a long-term, lifelong process. And that combined with being in those environments was one of the biggest things to stave off like heat injury. So when you leave and go somewhere else, like it's an obvious setback for when you come in. Maybe not a setback, but like you feel the difference.
Yeah, another big thing that has helped me a lot, because I'm such a heavy sweater, is electrolytes.
Yeah.
Talking like real electrolytes, not Gatorade that's just sugar and like 300 milligrams of sodium. I'm talking like, if I'm not doing 1,000 milligrams of sodium in a serving, it's, that's not enough. And there's some days, like heavy training days, I'm doing just in my supplementation, not including what I put on my food, at least 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of sodium And I know that's against kind of like against old time thinking, because they used to demonize salt, but now once again more research is coming out that salt's not bad for you. It's sugar, and you need, and they say that salt is actually one of the best pre-workouts you can take prior to a workout, because it increases blood volume, which is increases your vector for good performance.
Yeah, hell yeah. I appreciate you saying that. There's definitely a stigma with the salt. I still see it in the firehouse sometimes. One of the nutritionists I talked to, it's still being demonized. And one of the nutritionists I talked to was saying that if you, like, in your hat and your shirts, like when you're sweating and you can see the sweat stains, like that is a red flag that you need to get those electrolytes back in, right? I definitely take them. I've noticed a difference too. I'm glad you said that, and a lot more than what you really think. Like it's you can overdo it, but I think most people, if you get a couple of those little packs or scoops or sticks or whatever you have for the day, you're going to be all right.
Yeah, an eye opener for me was I was listening to a podcast by Nick Bear. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's like a hybrid athlete. He owns Bear Performance Nutrition.
Yeah.
And he had this doctor on called Dr. James D. Nicolantonio.
Yeah, that's a good dude.
He's like the one who's pushing all. Long short, saying that just PT close workout and probably not even close to during in the summer.
Yeah, you're starting to break up a little bit again. All right, try that again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good now.
But they were saying just a PT closed workout for an hour, you were losing over 1,000 milligrams of electrolytes.
Wow.
And what the red flag for me was, well, what happens when we're in our gear for that long? And that's not uncommon to be in your gear like that on an incident, whether it be an extrication, a structure fire, and now you're running medical calls on top of that, still in the heat. You catch another big call. If you're not replacing that with electrolytes and you're just drinking water, you're flushing your system out. And you're actually, you could drink a gallon of straight water, but if you're not supplementing with electrolytes, you're actually dehydrating yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing, right?
It's like overhydration to dehydration, which I never really knew about, which explained why I used to cramp back in the day.
Right.
I would drink a ton of water, but wasn't supplementing properly. But, like I said, there's all this science out there now. And, if I do a 30-minute gear workout in this heat right now, I mean, I'm at probably maximal effort.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Or on shift, if we're running multiple calls, like in the afternoon, if I get a headache, that's my first sign of like, oh man, I didn't take enough electrolytes. Like I'll pound another electrolyte stick, slam some water, and it's crazy. In 10, 15 minutes, I feel better.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, get rid of the headaches, the fatigue, all that stuff. I just had a friend, up here just a couple of days ago, 90 degrees plus the heat index, humidity. We're probably looking at mid 90s. CrossFit workout in the morning was about 8 METs. Then there was a wreck with entrapment. They're a paramedic. They did some like heavy ALS procedures. That just from no gear, nothing going on, just from the adrenaline, they were up to like 167 beats per minute, and you're looking at about 11, 12 METs. Ran a fire later that afternoon, height of the day, height of the heat, running in gear 1,000 feet, pulling attack lines. Ended up being an outside fire, but like salvage, overhaul, extinguishment, all that stuff for like an hour. That put them up at like 20 METs. And as a frame of reference, for anybody listening, like a 7.5 minute mile pace is like 10 to 12 METs. Anything over 16 is considered like high intensity. Everything over 25 is like all out effort. So we're in gear just with the heat, in gear, adrenaline, all that. You're looking at 20 METs, just as like one example of just what your gear and the weather's doing to you, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. What I want to fast forward a little bit with the Florida weather, with your background, with your fitness background. How did that prepare you for the smoke diver program? Because I think a lot of people like see that as one of the gold standards for doing really hard things for the fire service, right? And it's got a high washout rate. You successfully passed. That's amazing. And what was that the leg up you needed? Because I know it's definitely physical, it's mental. I know we're going to get into the mental aspect as well. Was it that background that lent itself to your success? Because I feel like a lot of people really underestimate the physicality of not just the fire service, but maybe that program. And they come into it, even with having all the information, probably underestimating what's truly on the line there.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and preface this with, just because you're a smoke diver doesn't mean that you're a badass fireman, and just because you're not a smoke diver doesn't mean you're not a badass fireman. You know, like when I first started my journey, I definitely put them up on a pedestal, and rightfully so. And, you know, every smoke diver I met is a very good fireman, but there's also a ton of firemen that I know personally that are not smoke divers. And, you know, I see where people are coming from, where they say that is the gold standard, but like I said, just because you didn't attempt the program or didn't pass the program doesn't mean you're a bad fireman by any means, you know. So I just want to preface that. And I'll also say that for people who are not familiar with my journey, this was like a 5 to 6 year journey for me to be successful at a smoke diver program. So it was back in 2017 was my first time going to Georgia's program. And up until that point in my life, you know, I wrestled in high school, so very physical, very mentally demanding sport. I was always very disciplined I would say for my age. Like I'd wake up early, run 3 miles before school, go to school, hit the weights, and then do a 3-hour, you know, grind wrestling practice. When I got out of high school, went straight into EMT and fire school. Got picked up by the time I was 21. And at that time, my priorities weren't necessarily aligned for performance. They were more for aesthetics, which I think we kind of all maybe do when we're young adults that are, you know, single bachelors with, you know, starting our careers out on the job. So most of my workouts were, you know, bro workouts. I'll just be honest. You know, I would go to the gym, chest day, arms, you know, legs. If I didn't feel like it, it was arms again, you know. And I kind of like put cardio to the wayside, which was a huge mistake because I was just more worried about, you know, looking good and getting bigger. And you know, as I got on the job, started running some big incidents, I started realizing I needed to up my cardio, so started adding more cardio. I took about 6 months to train for the Georgia Snow Diver program in my first attempt, and I highly underestimated it. I thought I could just get by on, you know, my mental resiliency from my high school days from wrestling. And, you know, I thought I could just lift some weights, do a gear workout maybe once a week for 15, 20 minutes and it'd be good. Didn't do enough research like I should have. And I showed up to day one, failed out of the PT within 30 minutes.
Wow.
So it's definitely, you know, a big slice of humble pie. I saw what the next level was, and then it just kind of made me hungrier because I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. I really liked the mission that they, you know, stated, what they stood for. They did a very good search lecture before we did the PT, so I at least got, you know, something out of it. It wasn't a total waste. And I'll also say that, you know, when people fail the program and they don't actually take an honest look at themselves, usually the first thing that they say about any type of program like that, not just snow diver, is, you know, oh, they're just there to beat you down. And it's just, you know, all they want to do is yell at you and make you work out. And that could not be further from the truth. But I tell people when they are preparing for any type of program like that is you know, the PT is just the prerequisite for the day. That's to get you loose, warmed up, and, you know, get your day started. And it's also to wear you down for certain evolutions later in the week, to where if you were fresh, you're not going to get the same stimulus mentally as you would if you're worn down. Like Chief Rhodes has talked about it before, the program in Georgia is equivalent to like 5 years of on the job and leadership experience, if they were to equate it and break it down just because of everything that's going on in the week. My second attempt, I ended up not getting into the program because it's getting more and more popular. They can only take so many out-of-staters because I was a Florida guy. I wasn't chosen for whatever reason. And at that point is when I met one of my biggest mentors, Matt McGee. He's currently a lieutenant for Orlando, and he was a Florida smoke diver. So he kind of took me under his wing, and he saw a lot of potential in me, and he kind of really showed me what the next level was. And it was like, hey, man, if you want to be a smoke diver, this is the type of stuff you need to do. Completely changed my way of working out. I would meet him at his station at like 2 p.m. and we would do these grinder workouts with him and his crew. And I was just amazed because, they're doing these workouts on shift, and they were a busy truck company for a big city. And I asked him one day, I was like, dude, how do you do this? And, be ready for a call. And he just flat out said, no emotion, super humble guy. He's like, if you can't do a gear workout or any type of training on shift and be ready for when the big call drops, then you're not in good enough shape.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of like the light bulb went off. And, I kind of preach that as well now because it was imparted onto me by him and a bunch of my other mentors. And, if that means you have to do these types of workouts on your off days, then so be it. But, like you just said, you guys did a CrossFit workout that morning. Maybe it was a 15, 20, 30-minute grinder, and you were still able to run later in the day.
Yeah.
And if you're not able to do that, then you really need to take a long, hard look in the mirror at yourself, because there's nothing stopping you from running multiple big incidents in a shift. But so we fast forward, I trained for a whole year under Matt. He's kind of really taking me under his wing. I didn't get into Georgia. He pulled some strings. He got me into Florida. And so I go to Florida and bailing out on day 2 at night. So same thing, another learning experience for me. Got a nice little slice of humble pie. That year was the year I really learned about nutrition and electrolytes, because the second morning, the first day I wasn't keeping up with my nutrition and hydration. I paid for it the second day.
Yeah.
And they tell us in the class, they're like, if they're not pounding water and eating food, their famous phrase they tell us every day is eat food, drink water, take care of your bodies. And if you don't do that in any type of program like that, you're definitely not going to, be successful, because it's a compounding effect. Once you fall behind, you're in an extreme deficit.
Oh, yeah.
So during one of the workouts morning, it was a bear crawl workout, and, my whole body cramped up.
Mm.
I mean, I had never experienced cramps like this before. And, 2 of the instructors who I deeply respect, they're mentors of mine still to this day, they just stood over me, no emotion. They're just like, you can keep going or you can quit, but make your decision. So I roll over, finish the workout. And honestly, even to this day, still look back at that experience, and it was such an invaluable experience, because I was at a point where I thought I was at my limit, and I was still able to push through and at least make it and finish to the end of the day, where I was still unsuccessful, but wasn't a complete loss, because I learned more about myself in those 2 days than I had, in the 2 years of on-the-job training I had. So same thing, go back to the drawing board, take a long, hard look at myself, made the necessary adjustments I needed to make, trained my ass off for another year, and go for my third attempt, make it all the way to the final scenario, and made some critical mistakes and didn't pass the final scenario.
Oh, man. This is a hell of a journey.
So, yeah, and the scenario, without giving it away, but you have to, do some search drills, and at the end you go and look for your poker chip. It's no secret. But I made some mistakes, missed some searchable spaces, and had to keep repeating the areas I needed to search, and ended up searching for over 2 hours before they finally were like, you're done, dude, because you're going to kill yourself before you give up. Wow. And I had lost over 12 pounds in water just from that scenario.
Yeah, wow.
So same thing, dude, super valuable experience, man, because, when I'm doing anything hard now, I just think back to how I felt in that exact moment. I had like the worst cotton mouth of my life, and I was still just going forward. And it's like, well, I still feel as bad as that time. So, I'm still not at 100%,
Yeah.
And things I'm doing today. Went back for a fourth attempt, got unlucky, and I'm sorry. When I made it to the final scenario, that was my second attempt at Florida, but it was my third attempt overall for a smoke diver program.
Okay.
Third attempt, I went there and made some mistakes on another scenario the night before the last day. Ended up not making it. Just a little unlucky. Sometimes that happens, as much as I hate to say it. And then my fourth attempt, which was 2 years ago, I got sick with, I don't know if it was COVID or the flu, the night before class.
Jeez.
And pushed through for 2 days, and I just couldn't go anymore. I ended up failing on the burn that night of the second day. Just 'cause I had nothing left in the gas tank. But
yeah,
like I said, once again, another cookie in the jar, as David Goggins said. I mean, I was sick with something, still pushed through 2 days at smoke diver. And then last January, I was supposed to go. I tried out, got into the class, but about I think it was 8 or 6 weeks before the class, I threw my back out to the point where I couldn't walk, and I ended up having a herniated disc at LS1 that was pinching on my nerve and running all the way down to my leg. So I was kind of ignoring it and kept training, and ended up really messing myself up. So had to pull out of the class. I got some PRP injections in my, really helped me out a lot, and now I'm back to 100%. And I'll be going back in a couple of weeks to try out to hopefully get a spot in the class and go back in February.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Damn, that's a hell of a journey, man. I didn't even realize how extensive the past was.
I'm sorry. To rewind back the year before, so February of last year is when I finished Georgia's program. So the year I got sick, it was about 6 weeks before Georgia's program.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so pissed that I got sick, dude, and so heartbroken. I'm like, well, I'm going to give Georgia at least, my second attempt, my last shot at a smoke diver program, because I was just so done with the process. I was like,
yeah.
I don't want to say like a victim mentality, but I can't catch a break, man. Like, I need to take a break. And I'm going to get it. I'm going to try to get into Georgia. If I get in last minute, then, I'll go and give it my all, because I was still in good shape. I just got sick,
Yeah.
So from Florida to Georgia is about 5 weeks or less. I just tweaked my training a little bit, went through Georgia and was successful. And, it was such an awesome experience because my wife came up and surprised me. And, it just kind of all the years of training just came full circle.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. That's amazing. Yeah, I know people have like the trials and tribulations like that. I didn't realize how extensive your history was with the program, but the thing that I'm catching on is like you're using words like invaluable, humility, learning, humble pie, cookie in the jar. What is it for you that is flipping the script? Because so many people will take that as a chip on their shoulder. They'll damn the program or themselves or somebody else. They place blame, but it truly is I feel like it's a conscious mental shift to see these as opportunities and then to keep going. Not saying you weren't frustrated. You definitely had your moments of doubt, frustration, injury, illness, like all the things. How did you, especially over a multi-year span, flip the script for your mindset to just to see it as an opportunity and see it a hard thing in a positive light, for lack of better words?
So I think one thing that definitely helped me is having mentors that were on the same journey. Like my best friend, Matt McGee, I just told you about, it took him 3 tries to get through Florida. So knowing that, it's not uncommon to have multiple attempts. And, we talk about it all the time. And it's like, if we would have both just passed on our first attempt, would we even be the same caliber of, fitness, fireman, mental resiliency, as opposed to, facing some adversity, just because you do your best doesn't always mean you're successful and that you get to bring the trophy home, and I can definitely say that I grew up in the generation where everybody got a trophy, and I definitely see the repercussions of that now.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think the most addicting thing, well, there's multiple things. One, I was always making progress. So, and I learned to kind of fall in love with the journey because the journey made me better. Having that smoke diver rocker that says Georgia Smoke Diver, having that Georgia Flames patch, having the poker chip, you know, that's not what makes you better. It's the journey. That's just the outcome of all your habits and, things coming together. And as much as I hate to say it, when it comes to a high stress, high level program like that, there is some luck that comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
You can't control if you get sick. You can't control if you get injured. You can't control if something malfunctions. And like I said, dude, I kept seeing results. And what was also great about it is whatever crew I was on at the time, because I would move crews just depending on, promotions or opportunities to be, at different houses. And I was able to bring like one or two people up around me. Or at one point, I had the whole crew coming out with me, doing the workouts with me, even though they weren't maybe doing the same exact thing I was doing. They were still getting out and they were also getting better. So, whenever I would fail, obviously you're upset. Like nobody wants to fail at something, but I would kind of look back and it's like, man, look at how much better I got. Look at how much better people around me got. And that's what I really started to enjoy. And, my mentors, they mentored me. I started mentoring people around me. I started only surrounding myself with people that have the same mindset as me. Like, I kind of joke because, like you said, you didn't know my journey. You kind of see my my polished version outcome. You didn't see the 5-year grind.
Yeah.
But what people also don't see is the people I train with fucking put me into the ground.
I love that.
Like Matt, me and him I would wake up at 3:30, 4 a.m. some mornings, go meet him at a parking garage an hour away from my house before shift. We would do some sort of either gnarly workout or, a 9/11 stair climb. And I could never beat him or keep up with him, man. And he's in his 40s.
Yeah.
But same thing, he's been training this way for, probably 10 or more years. And same thing, all of our friends are the same way, and it's very, it's weird to me when people will compare themselves to me. And I'm just like, you got to compare yourself to your day one. And as long as you're getting better every day, that's all that matters, because you guys haven't seen my day one.
Yeah.
Matt saw my day one. But, and then, like I said, dude, all my friends are way more badass than me, man. But it keeps you hungry.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's super awesome, man. When you're surrounded and you've got this circle that pushes you. And I feel like that's a good circle. When you don't have that, your circle is, I'm all about small circles, but it's the ones that get too small and aren't pushing you. And if you are the dumbest guy in the room, like that's probably a good thing. Like you said, it's keeping you hungry, and that is so cool. I love hearing stories like that. The mental and physical grit aspect of that journey, that I really appreciate that too. Like you start on your day one, that comparison is a thief of joy, and it's so easy to, well, especially and like I'm obviously guilty of it too with like social media. You're trying to put the best foot forward. They don't see the work that you've put in over how many years, over how many sweat sessions, and it's this accumulating effort that you've put in. And people don't realize that. They're like, oh, well, man, Logan's got to be so lucky. He's got this and he's got that. He's got these accomplishments, but they don't see the work that you've been putting in and the failures that you've overcome. And through that all, you've persevered and you've kept the right mindset for it. Is it part of this journey, a lot of your program for like the failing forward? And I'm not asking you to like give me the like bring the program out. Actually, I'm part of John Sparrow's program. Also, I saw the class. I meant to listen to it before I got on here. It's going to be the content for my drive into work tomorrow. But like your experiences of that, I know your Ever Failing Forward program talking about like resiliency and perseverance and like that growth mindset. Is that where this is coming from? Or is this like what other fingers or feelers or experiences do you have out there that are lending itself to this program?
Yeah. So, I mean, sadly, when we recorded it, we had a technical issue. My computer shut down and it didn't record the meeting. So we completely lost the recording, and we just both been so busy with the summer where we haven't been able to re-record, but we will be re-recording it very soon.
Oh, hell yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. It was more or less a more detailed version of the timeline I gave you. I kind of John actually really pushed me to do this class. I was kind of like reluctant because I was like, who wants to hear somebody just talk about themselves? But what it was, I actually thanked him afterwards because I said it was cool to actually, I never sat down and like went through the timeline of everything that happened. I was pulling up old pictures, and, you know, I kind of went into, you know, talking about mentorship and how went more into detail about bringing my crew up around me.
Nice.
You know, talk about failing and dealing with, you know, people talking shit after you fail. And because that's also another question that I get. And I just told them straight up, I said, it got to the point where, you know, I would never have gone to them for advice. So why do I care what they're criticizing me about? They've never walked a mile in my shoes. They don't even have the balls or the guts to toe the line that I've towed. So why would I care what they say, you know, versus if my mentors or my tribe had something, you know, critical or critiquing me in some way, then I'm going to listen, you know, because there's been many a times where my egos need to be checked by, you know, my people in my tribe. Because what can happen is when you see people are not holding themselves to the standard that you think they should hold themselves to, I think you can sometimes gain a superiority complex and think you're better than them. And I think, you know, if I'm going to be honest, I probably went through that in a short period of my time. And that's also not the route to go. You know, if you're abrasive and in people's faces and telling them how much they suck, they're probably not going to listen. And you don't know what's going on in their life. You know, they could have twin babies at home where they're up every night, and, you know, the station is their chance to catch up on some sleep and get a nap. You know, I'm not saying sleep all day, but, you know, you have to have a high standard for yourself, but be tolerant of others and meet them where they're at to bring them up.
Yeah. Yeah. Be strict with yourself, be tolerant with others.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I had to learn that the hard way, I think, as well. If I wouldn't go to you for your opinion and expertise, I'm not going to listen to your criticism either. You know, it's so easy to get caught in that.
I can't tell you how many times people are, you know, they give me a hard time because it took me so many attempts to, you know, pass smoke diver. And they're like, oh, I think I would pass on my first time. And I'm like, well, why don't you sign up then?
Yeah, right.
And then it's like, oh, well, the department doesn't pay for it, or I don't have time. If I had time to train, I could probably do it. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, if anybody makes time to train, I think you would be successful at anything you put time into, you know.
Shit, yeah.
Like I said, I kind of joke too. The guys at my department and station bring it up more than I do. I try to be as humble as I can about it. And I'm definitely proud of my accomplishment because of the journey that you know, it took me. But it's funny, man, because you will have haters. But I'm so blessed right now, man. I'm at a very good station. It's a double company house. We're a truck company and a squad company, and we have a battalion and a safety officer there as well. So you got 13 people there. 13 different, you know, characters. And I have 3 young guys who are super hungry, dude. They remind me of me when I was like in my 20s, first getting on the job. You know, they're talking about like, oh man, I hope we get a structure fire today. I want my helmet to be crispy. You know, all this stupid shit that we did when we were young in this job.
Right.
And my best friend, Phil, he drives the tower. We just kind of chuckle because we're like, these guys sound just like me and you when we were, you know, new and it's been a unique opportunity because me and Phil are kind of mentoring them. And, you know, I tell them, oh, man, you guys are so lucky that you have guys that are willing to pour into you, because when I first got into the job, that wasn't necessarily the case. I had to find mentors outside the department, and, you know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it keeps me motivated, dude, because when I go into work, they're like, what are we doing today, Broberg? Like, let's go. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it, man. Whatever you guys want. Or,
Yeah.
you know, they'll see me, I'll be grabbing, because I hate working out in our gym because I had air conditioning. So I'm big on working out in the bay, dude. So they'll see me bringing some dumbbells down to the bay. We got our assault bike and rower out there, and I'll kind of just give them the look as I pass the kitchen table, and they just start getting up. And you know, I know some days they don't want to, but it's awesome, man. I've been really enjoying it.
Hell yeah.
It's really nice when you got kind of the younger guys that are just full of piss and vinegar to just kind of keep you young. You know?
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Yeah, I love that. I sometimes have to. I would much rather try to rein people in than have to like wind them up, you know. And I'm definitely in that. I feel like we're almost cut from the same cloth, man. I have a very similar thing where I'm at. I'm very fortunate for that, and I do the same thing, man. Peer pressure is a hell of a drug. I'll put on my shorts, my workout clothes. I just start making circles around the firehouse. I just collect people, you know. I'm like, hey, it's time. And I just give them the stare, and they know, like, all right, I'm gonna go. Yes, I'm gonna go put my shorts on.
Yeah,
And same thing,
I'll come
man.
up on the like, what are you done today, man? You know, like, nothing. I'm like, exactly, let's go, dude.
Right, let's go. Hell yeah. With you, where you're at now in your career, and with you being a father, a husband, all the side projects that you've got going on, what does the daily discipline look like for you? I know we're already kind of hit on nutrition and working out and electrolytes and those types of things, but how have you organized your day and or your life to build in just the daily discipline of these are the non-negotiables? Some people will use the word like anchors. Like, what does that look like for you now, especially when you have all these other external things pulling at you? Because I think a lot of people lose sight of that, especially in fatherhood and husbandhood, busy firehouses. Like, you have all these things, responsibilities pulling at you, and it's very easy to either rest on principles in certain areas, let other thing wash out, or maybe you spend just too much time in one area and you realize, oh shit, I got to do the dad thing, or I got to be a leader in my firehouse. Like, what are your non-negotiables outside of what we've already talked about? How do you organize your day so you find success and resiliency and healthy relationships and just culture for you in your life?
So a big anchor for me, obviously, that I'm sure it's not a surprise, but working out.
Yeah, right.
I have to get some sort of workout in at least 6 times a week. You know, I usually give myself one full rest day. And I kind of make it flexible depending on what I have going on during the week. Because my wife works full time. So usually I'm on dad duty Monday through Friday on the days I'm not at the firehouse or teaching at the academy. And so we kind of built our life around that lifestyle, and I have a full garage gym. So it kind of makes it easy for me to at least get something in.
Yeah.
I have to wake up early. I will. It doesn't always happen recently just because, you know, I have an 8-month baby girl who's still not sleeping through the night. So I'll be honest, it's not as easy as I thought it would be to get up early.
Sure.
A big thing for when I'm on shift is I will get up early and get my own workout in the morning before shift. That way it's done. And then anything extra that I do with the crew is just extra. I don't get pissed off if we get a call or get interrupted, or if we don't get to it because of, you know, pub eds or training, whatever the case may be. And we try to dedicate, you know, some time to formal training. Like I said, we got 3 new guys, so it's usually pretty easy. They have a probationary handbook that we have to do, or we'll do some sort of extra training. And I used to be big on reading, but I'll be honest, I haven't been as disciplined in that as I would like. But I think the biggest thing for me in dealing with trying to be a good husband, good father, is just being able to be adaptable.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I have a hour to 2 hour workout grinder planned and I only get 30 minutes in before I gotta take care of the baby, it is what it is. I'll have to make it up.
Yeah.
You know, whether in the week or, you know, figure it out.
Yeah. No, you nailed it, man. I think so many people, I see that now actually with families that I know that I'm close to and that are actually struggling. They see the non-negotiable as being something very strict and finite, and they just try to force it. Whereas like, hey, I still got 30 minutes in. I'm going to pivot. I'll get in maybe extra the next day. I still got something in. And going back to your mindset, it's like, no, I still had the opportunity. I still had a small win. now I got to pivot and adapt and take care of baby. So
Yeah, it's just a 10-minute little grinder. Like a couple months ago, one of my buddies, he wanted to do 100 burpee a day challenge.
yeah,
And that was kind of like my non-negotiable. Is like, I don't care what happens as long as I get my 100 burpees in. And it was kind of crazy by the end of the month. I mean, I was able to bust out the 100 burpees in like 6 minutes or less.
Yeah.
And if you really think of it, it's like, oh, okay, I can squeeze 6 minutes in here, 10 minutes in there. And,
yeah,
even if it's just kind of to prove to yourself, you are who you say you are. Because I think sometimes when you're getting pulled in many different directions, you can kind of get lost in that. And it's definitely not been easy. Before I had a kid, I used to kind of think like, oh, you'll find a way or whatever. And then, once again, humble pie, it's like they come and you're like, oh yeah. And I kind of see what some of these older guys are talking about.
Yeah. That's awesome. What is and I know I kind of did this backwards. What is that firehouse culture look like for you? Just like volume wise, like the volume of the firehouse, like what you're running, like, are you up most of the night? How many calls you running? Like what kind of air you're serving? Like what are some of your unique things that you hit that other people might not get? What does that look like for you?
So I work for the city of Kissimmee, and that's in Central Florida. When people think of Kissimmee, they think Disney World, but we're actually like 30 to 40 minutes west of Disney.
Yeah.
And I call it. It's a very poor community for the most part. There's been some more money that's come in, but it used to be an old cow town for cowboys. And then back in the day, for whatever reason, the mayor and a bunch of developers were heavily advertising in Puerto Rico. So now we have a very big Puerto Rican population. Like I'd say probably over 80% of our city is Hispanic.
Wow.
And, they're very prideful on being Puerto Rican from Puerto Rico, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, sure.
We have a very dense homeless population and a pretty big drug problem. So you can see what kind of comes with that. And we're 4 stations. We are 3 engines, a squad, a tower, 6 rescues, which they're ambulances, but we call them rescues.
Mm-hmm.
We run a battalion and a safety lieutenant. And we ran 15,000 calls last year.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'd say we're pretty busy for our size. Like most departments our size around here run at half that.
Yeah, sure.
We're so busy that my station and the north side station has 2 ambulances at it to kind of help with the call volume.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's hit or miss. It's kind of weird. I've never really been able to figure it out, but in my city, the summertime is kind of like our slow time. So like the last few months has actually been kind of nice. Maybe at my station, 8 to 12 calls a shift, give or take, in the fall and the winter, it's like my station, the north side station's probably 20 plus. The west side station's pretty busy because it's all rundown motels and, big drug use population, big homeless population on the west side as well.
Yeah.
The east side is a little bit slower just because it's more residential and like working class families, but they're kind of getting up there in call volume as well. So 4 stations, 15,000 calls, and I kind of say our department's like any other department. And you have I call it the 80-20 rule. You got 80 people that will show up to work, do their job, be a good employee, but they go home and they don't really give a fuck about what's going on other than when they're at work, which is cool.
Right.
Then you got the bottom 10% where, they're just there for the benefits. They're always complaining. You can never make them happy. And then you have, the 10% of the motivated hard chargers.
Yeah.
And it's the same in every department. I used to think it was different, but it's not.
No, I feel like it's pretty standard.
I will say, well, the one thing that is very nice about my department, because we're so small, is if you want to have voice and if you want to have influence, it's very easy because our chief is very good about letting everything be run by committees. So our trucks are spec'd out by firemen. Our equipment that we get is spec'd out by firemen. We're building some new stations. Obviously, the chief is in charge of it, but there's input from the firemen. And that is very nice to have because, I talked to some of my buddies that work at these bigger departments and they have great ideas, but they're never heard. And with being a smaller department, when new equipment comes out, it's easy for us to buy it. Like for instance, when the power stretchers came out, our department was like one of the first ones in the area to get them because you only had to buy 4.
Oh yeah, nice.
Or probably like maybe 5 or 6 for reserves, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
So that's pretty nice. And like I said, as far as station culture, it's just dependent on the people that are there.
Yeah.
My station, I feel like, has a pretty good culture. I'd say 80% of us are all around the kitchen table pretty much the whole shift. We have a couple of guys who, will hang out in their bunks most of the time, and it is what it is. Sometimes I'll get them out for a workout or training with peer pressure, but, it's the same in every department and every station. But I'd say for the most part, we're all around the kitchen table. We try to do meals together, especially with a big house. For some reason, none of my probies know how to cook. So anyways,
it's more common. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'd say for the most part, it's very easy to get training going because either me or my buddy Phil will kind of initiate it, and our lieutenants are 100% on board. Both our lieutenants are down to always train or do gear workouts.
Awesome.
And our battalion chief supports us, which is awesome. So it's a good time, man.
Hell yeah. You guys are on a 24/48?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're 24/48, no Kelly day, so we work a 56-hour work week.
Oh yeah,
which
wow.
I'm hoping can change. There's been some talks about schedule improvements, but it's one of those, I'll kind of believe it when I see it.
Yeah, sure.
And we're having some hiring issues just because we've had some medics leave. We've always kind of been a kind of a revolving door department.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, people are a little busier than most, and we're not the most paid. So they'll come, get the good experience. We'll get good calls. We do go to fires. We don't go to fires every day, but we go to a decent amount for the area. And we have good equipment, training. Our department pays for all training up front. So they kind of come, hang out for a few years, get training, and then the other departments around us kind of get the benefit of it.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. I get that, man.
We're above my pay grade, and it's kind of I know it's a nationwide issue, but it's been an issue that's been going on in our department since I've been there for 10 years. So
yeah, I get that. We definitely have our struggles up our way, and we're trying to go from a 48 to a 42, and that's been a multi-year process, and just there's so many angles to work and budget and politics and all kinds of stuff. So I can only imagine going from the 50s to down to the 40s. It can be a heavy lift, especially for a small department. But
yeah, but I mean, all the data that's coming out, I think something needs to change. As far as all the cancer stuff. I don't want to get into the PFAS and the gear because I think my thoughts on that. But
yeah, sure.
In my humble opinion, I think one of the major contributing factors to cancer in the fire service is sleep deprivation.
Yep. And
if you look up sleep deprivation, I think it's a type 2 carcinogen.
Type 2B. Yep.
Classified as. So, I think when we're a lot busier than we were back in the day, back in the maybe 80s and 90s when they weren't having to fulfill so many hats. But now these departments that an all hazards approach, something has to give,
So, I completely agree, man. It was just a couple of years ago. I was at a busy house, and the engine there, it was busy all during the day, but then especially at night, and that brain-body connection, man, is strong. And I can't tell you, I was just constantly sick and just constantly trying to recover. My days off were, I was just a zombie. And when we're, just like you said, we got to put on all these different hats, and we're just grinding, man. It was it took a toll on me, so I certainly feel that, and I don't see any end in sight for a lot of people. They just have more responsibilities and classes, and if we don't know what to do, we're going to give it to the fire department. So
yep.
Yeah. For all the different areas that you're in, I know that you have got workout programs and you've got training stuff. What resources do you have and you're putting out there, and how can people find you for all those different things that you got your hands in?
So last December, I started a company called Rogue Firemanship, and you can find our Instagram page. It's called Rogue Firemanship Training. And I kind of just try to post kind of my opinions on what's going on in the fire service today, share some of the ideas that were, passed on to me. Nothing really is original that I've come up with. It's all stuff that's kind of been passed on to me, and I just share it with other people. I share workouts on there. I try to do 1 or 2 workouts a week if I can, for free to share with people.
Mm-hmm.
And then through there, I have personal programs. I have a monthly program that I offer, and then one-on-one training. And then I have also a 12-week program that I named the Rogue Operator. And it's kind of just that Rogue Operator program. I kind of just came up with it because it was my style of training. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff online that says it's geared towards firefighters,
Mm-hmm.
but it's workouts all in PT clothes and more just CrossFit type workouts, which don't get me wrong, I think CrossFit type workouts are great. I do CrossFit type workouts. I don't do CrossFit per se,
Mm-hmm.
but I do, the same methodology. I do believe in the methodology.
Yeah, sure.
And, there's a lot of circuits in there that have to do with gear because I think it's the almighty equalizer. Like we were talking about earlier, you could be a beast in PT clothes, but then you put that gear on and people will just seem to crumble.
Yes. 100%.
And it's, it's science, because what's happening is your heat is building up in your body and you can't dissipate it. So now your heart rate's climbing. And, for instance, if I were to put my gear on right now, it's 98 degrees right now in Central Florida, and it's still sunny out. So really it's probably like 102 to 104 heat index with the humidity.
Yeah.
I put my gear on, my heart rate's automatically 150, 160, just chilling, not including any stress responses from what type of call I'm going on.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I'm really bad about marketing myself. But the easiest way to reach me is on Instagram. I do have a Facebook page. I'm not as active on it. I'm used to using Instagram a little bit better. And then you can find me on Facebook. My name's Logan Broberg. And then on Instagram, it's Logan Broberg as well. And anybody has any questions or wants to reach out, I'm usually pretty quick to respond. And then I have a website as well called roguefiremanshiptraining.com. It's roguefiremanship.com.
Rogue Firemanship. Yeah. Awesome. No, I've been digging into it, and I have always appreciated your insight on topics. And you throw something up, you got a good one-liner, but then your explanation of it is always spot on. The workouts that I've seen are really cool, and I know that you have had a lot of people that have had a ton of benefit from it, which is really amazing to see. Like it's awesome that you're doing your thing in Kissimmee and on Instagram, but like the effect it's having is creating ripple effects out there, man. And from a very early onset with me starting all my stuff, you've been nothing but supportive. So I can't thank you enough for that as well, man. I appreciate that. Without, it would be like a 14-hour drive or whatever. And, never actually like sitting down elbow to elbow yet. We've, you've been helping me out and have supported me, and I can't thank you enough for that as well. That's huge.
Yeah, I think, it says a lot about somebody that's willing to help somebody else that's in the same, space as them or arena. We're both into fitness. We're both putting fitness out there for firefighters, but, I would never say or do anything to hinder somebody from wanting to access your style of training or programming, because all I care about is firemen getting better and getting in better shape.
Yeah.
And they may not like my style, and that's perfectly okay. They may like your style, or, my buddies, John Sparrow or Marcos Orozco, they also offer great resources, Fit to Fight Fire, Hard Knock Sunday. Yep. They've both helped me out tremendously, and same, it's been reciprocal. And it's just awesome to see that the social media community is kind of growing. And it seems like, from my perspective, it seems like the younger generation of firemen are very hungry and motivated. They just don't know necessarily where to look.
Yeah.
But they are looking, so that's my goal, man. I just want firemen to be good at the job, be physically capable. And, my thing since I got on the job is I always wanted to be able to, no matter what type of call dropped, I wanted to be able to look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day and say, I did everything I could possibly do to prepare. You know, when you read about Navy SEALs that were in the 90s, right? They were in the teams and there was no war going on, but they were still training their asses off because they didn't know when it was going to pop off. But they knew history repeats itself. It's going to pop off, right?
Yeah, just a matter of time.
And then, bam, 9/11 hits. And when towers go down, they get deployed. You know, can you imagine if those dudes and all those guys who went overseas weren't preparing and they said, oh, we don't kill terrorists anymore. There's no crime internationally. Like, because you probably hear the same things that I hear, that we don't burn anymore. We don't burn like we used to.
Yep.
But we still burn.
Yeah.
And, you know, like Rob Ramirez says from Mayday Mindset, shit that never happens all the time. And that, I'm like, dude, that's so fucking spot on. And, you know, crazy because you look at the statistics and fires may have gone down, but fire deaths haven't.
Yeah, I think they've been increasing, actually, if I'm not mistaken. They definitely haven't gone down.
They've stayed the same, or like you said, have increased, but fires are down. So
right.
That means every day that we're on the job, we're getting closer to getting toned out to a fire that is confirmed impairment. You know, it doesn't happen every day unless you're in a very, you know, urban department that's very, I call it economically underprivileged.
Right.
You know, maybe they are, you know, like guys in maybe like Houston or Atlanta, sure, or St. Louis. Yeah, they're probably making grabs almost every day, but it's not to say that it doesn't happen in a suburban or rural department. And, you know, if you live in this facade that it's not going to happen to you and it does, I mean, you're going to have to live with that burden. And I would just hate for somebody to have to live with that burden. I'd rather be as prepared as I can be. And if I never have an opportunity to, you know, make a grab or, you know, make a positive difference because something that bad doesn't happen in my career, then I'm perfectly okay with that. But I would hate for the opposite to happen, where I say it's never going to happen and my card gets pulled.
Yeah. I think it's too easy to rest on those principles, and we see it. I think talking to some of the guys I know in the rural departments, that's even more reason to be prepared. You know, I got plenty of guys and friends in Baltimore City that are doing amazing things. And I got friends in rural West Virginia that they need to prepare just as much because they're under-resourced and understaffed, and they don't know when it's going to come. So they don't have the volume that, you know, DC and Baltimore and St. Louis have. So, yeah, it's even more important. And it's just that the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, man. You know, you can validate yourself in what you're doing, or you can just be left wondering why. And for me personally, and I know for you, we want to be able to sleep well at night and be able to look ourselves in the mirror in the morning. So, you know, I definitely appreciate that insight, man. That's cool. Well, I know we've been banging on an hour, and you lead a busy life, and you got baby to get back to. You know, I think it's a good place to stop as any. I know I could keep going. I can keep hammering on this stuff, man, and I'll definitely have to have you back on because there's more things that I want to dig in on now with just like that mindset stuff that we're kind of closing up, but that's a good spot as any. So, yeah, we'll have to do this again, and I appreciate it, dude.
Definitely. I appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.